In order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good morning. Consideration of agenda items. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Hearing none, move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Pohlmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Pohlmeyer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sheila, would you like to take the next item?
Yes, thank you. Item 4, introduction of Health and Human Services Director. Welcome Barrett Spores, Health and Human Services Director for McLeod County. Do you want
Barrett?
to come up and introduce yourself and say a few words?
Good morning.
Good
Welcome.
morning. Good morning.
Welcome.
Nice to see all of you again. So my name is Barrett Spores. This is my second week on the job. Like I said to you before, Megan thought she'd scare me away, but I don't scare that easy. So, so far so good. I live in Hutchinson with my husband and my almost 8-year-old daughter who started school yesterday, which went well. So that's good. I've been in Hutchinson for about 13 years, and most of my experience is with senior services. So,
Welcome.
thank you. Any questions?
No, I'm sure those will
Pace
come.
ourselves,
Okay?
huh? All right. Thank you.
We'll save them all for later.
Well, the next agenda item is the COVID update, so I don't know, Barrett, if you're taking that or if Megan has that this morning, so. Okay, let's do it.
I don't know how we're going to do it with social distance, but we'll find a way. Okay.
And with the wonderful microphones.
Yeah,
so.
I know. I should warn these. I might have to get to speak right into them. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
September 1st today. It certainly feels like fall out there. We were just going to start out by giving you a bit of a case update, and Barrett asked that I take the lead on the report, and she'll, of course, jump in as she feels is necessary. So as of the close of business yesterday, we had 367 cumulative cases in McLeod County. And we've talked about, we don't want to have panic. We just want to have awareness. So I just want to be clear, only 25 of those 367 are still in isolation. So just to clarify that piece. We do unfortunately have 5 in the hospital at this point in time. And I think as everyone's aware, we did experience our first death a couple weeks ago. So we'll just leave it at that. I did want to talk a little bit about, how our case rate, and I'll get to our testing event in just a minute, how our case rate might impact schooling. I know yesterday and today have been the first day of school for a number of our resident families here. And as everyone knows, the case rate really drives how open the schools can be. So through the week of August 15th, our rate per 10,000 residents was 31.54, which dictates that we would, for public schools, be in a hybrid model for the younger students and a distance learning model for the older students. Now, if you get over 50, then you move into distance for everybody. And we certainly expect, the numbers will be updated on Thursday of this week for the preceding 2 weeks. And we certainly expect that we'll be well above that 30 number. Could we be above the 50 number? Possibly. We'll see, with the state's algorithm, what the number ends up as. Just to give you a sense of perspective of where we've been, about a month ago, the week ending July 18th, we were only at 6.42 for our rate per 10,000, and now, of course, as I said, 31.54. So quite a jump, and we do expect it, as I said, to go up further before it comes back down.
I'm sorry, Megan, can you
Yes.
repeat what the rate is today? I couldn't understand.
Sure, sorry. The rate, the current number is actually a couple weeks old, so it's through 8/15.
Okay,
And the number is 31.54.
thank you.
Yep, thanks for asking clarification. In terms of overall news and developments, I guess the big thing is that the conversations about vaccines continue. We are still hearing that the FDA will be doing a faster approval process. There are multiple vaccines in development. We're hearing a few more details that, number one is that they're likely to roll out slowly, so there'll be a process of ramping up production when it occurs. There's likely to be a priority list of who gets the vaccine first as we're ramping up production, so you can expect to see things like healthcare and long-term care workers kind of being first in line to receive the vaccine, and then eventually it will hit, the general public. We are still looking at a number of the different vaccines they're looking at do, again, have that 2-shot sequence where you get the first dose and then 21 or 28 days later you get the second one. So it could be a pretty elaborate process to make sure we get everybody to get those 2 doses. So more to come about that. I expect we'll, by the end of fourth quarter of this year, we'll be talking a lot about vaccine and getting that through our communities. Let's see, in terms of other updates, we haven't had a chance to meet with you since we had our big testing event, so just to talk a little bit about this for the public record. We did have a very successful event in this very room, as a matter of fact. We had, on August 20th, 791 tests were administered that day. Out of that 791, we had 61 positives, with a positivity rate of 7.7%, which was a little higher. That's a little higher than the statewide average, a little higher in terms of where we've been, but obviously it's a self-selected group. So we had a really good experience overall with the state. As we know, the state EOC came in and kind of ran the event for us. We did have, unfortunately, some frustrations with the testing results turnaround time. We had been told initially 72 hours, affirmed 72 hours by the state. It turned out to be quite a bit longer than that. So we felt really glad in the end that we were doing a lot of contact tracing locally, because that allowed us to get to people more quickly than waiting for the state to call, particularly in light of the fact that it took us longer to get test results. So that's the testing event. We were certainly anticipating we'd have a lot of positives coming out of this event. You always do, out of a mass testing event. We were expecting some impacts on our essential services and local public health. So again, helping people meet their basic needs when they're in isolation and they can't go grocery shopping, get their prescriptions. Sometimes people need housing because they can't isolate at home if they have high-risk people on site. I have to say, I think it's been minimal at this point. We hand out a lot of thermometers and some food, but for the most part, people seem pretty self-sufficient, so that's good news. We also have, as I said, been working on case investigation and contact tracing. That's been a really positive experience, and I think our residents have benefited from that a lot by having that local attention from our staff. It's been positive but time-consuming. In order to ready ourselves to be, set to go when these results came in from our mass testing event, we did work on reassigning some staff within Health and Human Services to free up public health nursing time. So our staff are certainly experiencing some transition, some upheaval as we, as I said, free up PHN time to be able to doing more of these public health duties. Last thing is long-term care testing. It sounds like there's going to be some updates coming down from the federal government in terms of expectations around testing for long-term care facilities. So it may ultimately look similar to the school model, where the frequency of testing is dependent on sort of how bad COVID is in your local community, and we expect some guidelines about that and more specifics to come out tomorrow. But that is on the horizon as well, so more to come about that. I think that's all I had for today. Did you want to add anything, Barrett? Or? Okay.
All right, any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Ron?
Megan, with the mass testing that we did here recently, does that take some pressure off of the local clinic test sites? Are they having less tests done, or are they still seeing a steady stream of test patients?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I would say we have had some feedback from GRH that things are a little bit opening up a little bit, especially in their drive-through clinic. That could be partly from our testing event. I think it's also one of our large employers, Seneca, has brought in an outside testing service to be on site at their operation there, so they're getting less traffic from Seneca as well. So I think between the two, we're seeing more slots open at that drive-through testing.
All right, Mr. Chair, one more question. What is the status as far as testing? Is anyone allowed to go in for testing yet, or do they prefer to have people that are slightly symptomatic come in for testing? Do they turn anyone away, I guess is the question.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, it kind of, it keeps changing constantly based on the availability, again, of those reagent chemicals. The last I had heard, they were really not testing asymptomatic people because we'd been having some shortages again. Have you heard otherwise, that switched back? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So that's where we're at.
And Megan, before we let you go, as we come into cold and flu season, if you will, and only because I got the question, I have no idea the answer. Often if a child or even an adult would have a strep throat, right? And they would go get a test. How are healthcare facilities thinking about that? Are they going to test them through the drive-through systems? Are they even talking about that yet? Or has that conversation came up at all yet?
Mr. Chair, it's really not. I think what we're seeing is that a lot of our clinics are just open now.
Okay.
They've gone through a process, and I was sharing with Sheila earlier, I had my 17-year-old in. I stopped gesticulating as I talk. I had my 17-year-old in yesterday for a well-child check, and the clinic is just, they've got everything down in terms of their process, their spacing, how they sanitize. So I would expect, our local clinics would be doing mainly, strep and influenza testing.
And maybe I didn't articulate the question very
sorry.
well, but meaning some of the symptoms are the same, right?
Right,
Or
right.
similar. And how do you...
Can be.
Yeah, and how in the world do you decipher through a video visit often is what they're doing, right?
Sure.
So, and maybe you don't have the answer, and that's fine.
You do have to have the test. We have had that come up now.
Yeah.
So if you can't get a COVID test because there's a shortage, but you
Yeah.
have that same constellation of symptoms, and you test negative for strep and you test negative for
Yep, then it's
influenza.
time
they're-
for something
in some
else.
cases, they're kind of concluding it could be COVID.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
but sometimes it's the first time probably ever someone's relieved to get a positive strep test.
All right.
Because it's easily treatable, and then you can go back to school right away, or
Right.
daycare, or what have you.
All right, fair enough. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, take care. I don't see Kevin, Sheila, anything from him?
Kevin doesn't have any updates
Okay.
today.
How about you? Anything?
I have a short one. Thank
Okay.
you. As you know, we released our CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Fund grant program through the county. Everything is listed on our county website. The links are there for the different types of applications. There are applications for business and nonprofit organizations to apply for assistance grants. There's also the application for the schools. And then there's the application for those cities and townships that are participating with us to apply for their dollars back to be reimbursed through the county for their own expenses. So far, as of Friday, we had 21 business and nonprofit applications totaling $361,803. And we also had 3 school applications totaling $150,057. That we do have additional, but that was our last summarized tracking was on Friday afternoon. That's
Very
all
good.
I have.
All right. We'll keep moving on with the agenda. Government Center update. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Like we've always seen, kind of a quiet update for you as far as the budget goes. Really no changes. The only thing I had alluded to last time is we were having some dirt dialogue, some discussion was evolving. You guys had a little input on that, appreciate that. And through your help and through John's help, we kind of came to a conclusion that working with some all states paving and the current dirt contractor to kind of make that issue kind of go away. So really no impact on the budget. So we're going to keep moving forward as we planned. Right now, without Sam here this morning, he's actually meeting with New Look, our dirt guys, to kind of walk through that schedule. We're going to start tackling that this week, actually. We're going to get going with shaping, kind of, re-stripping the topsoil and get back after putting the site together. Kind of jump right into that schedule stuff. So the budget, really nothing changed. We had a couple cleanup PRs that we've issued, just catching those incidentals, adding some drawers, finding some stuff that staff might need as, in prep as we're getting into the cabinetry coming up here. Moving over to more scheduled dialogue. Painting underway, quite a bit of it's painted out. They're working on the second floor now. Ceiling grid, for the most part, in all the office areas on second floor done. And they'll be moving over to kind of the the open cubicle spaces here late this week. Targeting to start some of the mechanical systems coming into mid-September here, so we can start bringing in the cabinetry, start working on that next wave of finishes. That's our big push now. And then the site work getting underway this week. Our hope is to start with the underground electrical, and then we'll start doing some of this cement stabilization activity for that east parking lot. Hopefully next week. It's kind of what we're shooting for, weather permitting, of course, with really our end goal of getting everything paved up by the end of the month. So we got curb and gutter, sidewalks, and all that stuff to iron out yet as we go, but it should take off quickly again here now. So you'll see a flurry of activity again outside, which will be probably refreshing for the community. Sometimes it looks like nothing's happening for a while and there's a lot going on inside, but it gets quiet from an observer's perspective.
All right, fair enough. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, sidewalks and curb and gutter will go in right after stabilization? That'll go before the tar?
Yep, and we
Yes.
might even start some of it ahead of time if we can get the site. If you look on the south side, a lot of that site's kind of prepped up and ready already. Depending on their schedule and what Sam can work out here right now this morning, if they can get going with some of that next week, they will. A big piece of puzzle is making sure that electrician gets his rough in going, so that's all in ahead of time. But yeah,
Real good.
that should be on the heels of it pretty quick.
Weeds are growing.
I know, it's starting to get to the point where I know it's mow it again kind of feeling.
All right, Ron, you have a question?
Yeah, Sam, exterior of the building is pretty well finished off now, and
Yep, we got a little bit, you see there's still some activity going on. We've quizzed our painter who did the building washing. He's got it painted up, looks pretty sharp, but there's still a few leftovers. You see some leftover staining on the side. Exploring a few other options on how maybe to extract that, to see if we can get that out of there. A little bit of activity on the roof's pretty much dialed up. You'll see you guys up and down as we start thinking about equipment startup, but the building itself, for the most part, tidied up.
all right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Public Works. Good morning, John.
Morning.
Morning, John.
Item A, we'd like you to consider hiring Stonebrook Engineering out of Burnsville, Minnesota to perform an intersection evaluation for us on our County Road 115, also known as Airport Road, and County Road 25, the intersection of Jefferson and Airport Road, the south side of Hutch. Estimated cost for their services, $14,968 based on hourly rates, and that's in our highway construction budget. The reason we like to hire these guys is in 2021, we're doing a major rehab on County Road 115 from County Road 7 all the way over to Trunk Highway 22, a concrete overlay. That's one intersection, over the years we've had, it's a skewed intersection. We've had a couple crashes at it and stuff, so we'd like to make sure we're gonna put out the best. What's the right option for the intersection? Do we want to look at realignment? Do we look at adding turn lanes, right in, right out on some of it, things like that? So that's mainly what they'll be looking at. Also, they'll develop some conceptual layouts, and then we can do some online public engagement. A lot of, now with the current COVID, of course, we're doing, MnDOT's doing a lot more online open houses, and this will kind of lead to that too.
I think it's a good idea. So, I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ron.
John, the figure is an estimate. Should we have a not-to-exceed figure on this approval?
Yeah, you could, if there's a little bit of unforeseen things that come up, if maybe not to exceed 18,000.
That's fine with me. Doug?
Also fine with me.
All right. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John, along with this, you mentioned that there probably will be some public input in or awareness of what may or may not happen to that intersection along the way then?
Yeah, the whole corridor right there, that whole project, I think this winter we'll want to do some online engagement and get some feedback and try to do some sort of a virtual open house or some sort.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B, we'd like to hire Contegrity Group out of Little Falls, Minnesota, to do construction management services for construction of bathrooms in the horticulture building at the fairgrounds. Estimated fee for those folks is $15,000 based on a fixed fee, hourly rates, and associated mileage. As you recall, we had, early on, we tried to have bids, or we let bids for the commercial building, bathroom, and horticulture project, and those came in a lot higher. Since then, in-house, we've done the remodeling a little bit and repairs to the commercial building bathrooms, but the horticulture bathroom has still been on something that we want to be able to tackle. I think we've had kind of estimates all over the board on that, so I think by bringing in a Contegrity or a construction manager, we can put that out in smaller packages and hopefully bring that project, rein that in a little bit and come in kind of what we're hoping for initially, and then, which is, of course, what we need is bathroom space out there, so.
Well, and the goal is this money actually saves us more in the long run.
Absolutely, and it allows us, I think, now in the current environment, more bathrooms out there will allow, more events and so forth. So.
Right. All right, any questions for John on this?
Well, Mr. Chair, I totally agree with his reasons for bringing these Contegrity on board. They've been a very, very valuable partner in our building projects. Like to be able to keep them with us, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
Mr. Chair, this is a request to allow us to bring an action against individuals who had 2 dogs that killed about 10 sheep. The dogs were residing within the city. The sheep were slightly outside of the city of Hutchinson. The total cost for the impounding and the euthanizing of the animals was $25.15.85. The filing fee is $70. So we're bringing an action for $25.85.85 with your approval. And I would ask you to agree to that.
All right, any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mike, was there restitution for the killed livestock? Is that outside of our purview here?
That's outside of your purview, and I don't recall.
Okay.
I'm assuming that there was. If there was not, then there was the availability of a civil action for the owner of the sheep.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do we need a motion?
We do.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, on to our calendars. Rich?
Okay, since our last board meeting, we obviously had the workshop after the board meeting. We had our Health and Human Service meeting after that, discussed some of the programs that are going through in our public health department with some of the supervisors. Also had a planning commission meeting, United Community Action meeting. Headlines out of that meeting were the Head Start programs building was dedicated in Wilmer, Marshall building is working, and Head Start in Hutch is open and running through UCAP. So that kind of brings me up to today.
Okay, after our last meeting, workshop Health and Human Services on the 20th, CARES Funding Committee met. 25th MRF Committee we set up for next week's Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting. 27th, another CARES Funding Committee meeting.
My computer died, so forgive me. After the board meeting, we Health and Human Services met with the administrator and vice chair regarding some admin items on the 19th. Let's see. Again, forgive me. The 25th, the Health Insurance Committee met regarding the current program or current fund and fund balance, and then what we will be doing potentially next year. And just some other miscellaneous meetings, and it looked like I actually showed up at Hutch PD a bunch too. So, all right. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last board meeting, yes, we had the County Board workshop and the Health and Human Services Committee meetings on the 18th. On the 24th, AMC, Association of Minnesota Counties, had a webinar on the CARES Act and the Corona Relief Fund webinar. I participated in that via Zoom, and we talked about how other counties are distributing funds and so forth. And I felt very confident that McLeod County has done just what was needed with the CARES Relief Fund. We're on track, and I think we're going to be doing just a fine job with that. Yesterday morning, I had a virtual tour of Uponor with the North American President and Vice Presidents. We were on a conference call, video slideshow. Uponor has purchased one of the Hutch Technology buildings in Hutchinson. They currently have 40 employees in Hutchinson. We talked about their transportation needs, their waste product and materials, and they're a very efficient system. A lot of what they generate in waste actually goes back through their systems and is regenerated, but they are hoping to expand in the future in our area. They've got a research and development program. They do the PEX piping for plumbing and heating systems, but they are getting into larger scale projects with the hospitality industry, hotels and restaurants and so forth. So it was a very interesting webinar, and I was glad to participate, and I spoke highly of McLeod County and the need for them to expand their business here. So that is it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Doug?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also had the workshop on the Health and Human Services Community Health Board meeting on the 18th. On the 19th, I sat in on interviews for our new patrol sergeant. On the 20th, I worked most of the day on the corona tests here at the city center. I got to see just about everybody going through, and it went, in my opinion, went fairly smoothly. And I myself, personally, I'm kind of glad with the numbers. I know they said they were a little bit high, but I was scared they could have been higher, so I was satisfied with that. Went smoothly. That evening, I had a Helen Township Town Board meeting talking about the relief fund and also some drainage issues that they had concerns about. That morning, I also had a Corona Relief Committee meeting. On the 25th, MRF Committee meeting, followed by a Buffalo Creek Watershed Board meeting. The 26th was an HRA Board meeting. I guess that other than some work on checking on Morningside and Diamond Avenue, which is closed now, and the railroad crossing at least is closed. Checking on that. That brings us to today. Thanks.
Sheila, anything to add?
Mr. Chair, the only thing I have to add is that we did have our joint group health insurance meeting, as you noted, and last year we committed to a 2-year agreement with Southwest West Central, so we will continue with that for next year. We did receive somewhat positive news. As you know, the last few years there have been double-digit increases on our insurance costs year over year. Thankfully, it is only at 9%. I say only at 9%, wishing it was less, but we were expecting it to be around 12. So that was at least better news than what we had hoped for, and we will talk about that in the near future.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could you just comment, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, on the Corona Relief Fund? The Corona Relief Fund, I know you said there was a lot of applications coming in. Is there anything you want to talk about on that, or it is what it is?
There are a lot of applications coming in, which is very good. So for those who are watching, please encourage local businesses and nonprofits and the schools that are eligible to apply for the funds that are available. We are hoping to spread that across as many businesses and organizations as possible for the help that is needed. And we know that a lot of people have had to put a lot of things in place or were closed for some time, and hope to just really get the most responsible distribution of those funds. We'll meet again on Thursday as our committee, and at that time we'll go through all of the applications that have come in so far. And then the next thing is that we'll make a recommendation to the board for approval of funds. So we'll have a monthly distribution out to those businesses, organizations, and schools. So far, there haven't been a lot of questions. I think we included everything in the documentation that helps people understand it pretty well, but the questions that have come in have been handled quickly, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, sure.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just a point of information, we have condemnation hearings starting next Wednesday, and they'll be for 2 weeks regarding the properties up on CASA 15, and we're going to hold those hearings at the highway shop there so that the condemnation commissioners and the property owners don't have to go through the courthouse, and we have a lot of space there. We can maintain masking and social distancing and all that stuff. Just an informational item. But John and I will be working on those.
Very good. Sheila, you want to take A and B, and then we can open it up?
Thank you. Just one note too, that we will have a budget update at the workshop today. It was listed for a future item, but will be today. Item A, notification of solid waste advisory committee meeting on September 8, 2020, 10 o'clock a.m. at the McLeod County Environmental Services Building, large conference room, 1065 5th Avenue Southeast, Hutchinson, Minnesota. Item B, notification of board workshop to be held following the board meeting on September 15, 2020 at the Glencoe City Center, Senior Room, 1107 11th Street East, Glencoe, Minnesota. Thank you.
Open forum or press relations, anything? All right, looking for a motion to recess until September 15th at 9 a.m. at the Glencoe City Center.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Polmeyer, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Workshop is